Ooh, welcome back. Look at this. Look at this. If you are watching on the YouTube, you should be delighted. But this image, oh my gosh. I only objectified two men in my life. One of them is Donovan Morgan Grant. The other one is Dick Grayson. When I remember when this dropped, I think first of all, the news story dropped, it was false, and they said it was a cover, and Nicole Scott said, no, actually that's internal. And they were just showing this this one image. Man, I posted it. I reposted it several different times. And at one point I think she had, I don't know if it was a sale, but she was just, come and check out my stuff. And I thought, oh, I wonder if she's got the page for this. And I knew it was going to be expensive because whenever they have those particular pages, they're in the hundreds. And I think it was like 180 maybe, but they were sold out when I went on there. But this, if I could have just this image right here as a nice little, 14 by 17. If I ever get back to a con, maybe it'll exist as just that. It would be the sexiest thing that I've ever bought. And it would delight me. I would probably put it over my bed, I think, my headboard. But anyways, yeah, so that's Future State Nightwing. That's really the reason why you should read it. But I did want to at least say with Future State Nightwing that Batgirl and Oracle, which is confusing. He calls her, what does he call her? He calls her Babs, but then he calls her Batgirl too, which was confusing just because of Future State Batman. So I said Batgirl slash Oracle does appear in Future State Nightwing. It's just not significant enough, I think, to a role to warrant a full review, but really what was significant was that Nooditay. So we're going to focus on Future State Batman 2 and 4, and specifically the backups. And it's interesting, I don't know if they're considered truly backups, but I like to think of them as backups just because it gives me this sense of, or this wave of nostalgia for Detective Comics when Barbara Gordon was appearing in those backups that he had 8 pages. And I think this was way more than 8 pages, at least it felt that way. But it's fun. I don't want their importance to be, I don't know, dampened. That, oh, it's a back. Why are you calling it a backup? They deserve a full feature. But I think there's just nice nostalgia attached to it. Thank you so much to Theodis Wright from the Batman universe for providing unwittingly the synopsis for both of these. You did the hard work, so I don't have to, but I appreciate you. So, Future State Batman number 2, Batgirls Part 1, writer Vita Ayala, artist Anike, colorist Trish Mulvihill. A new inmate arrives at the magistrate detention facility. To everyone's surprise, the new resident is Cassandra Cain. The facility's warden offers her a deal if she turns over details of the resistance whereabouts. Cass doesn't utter a word. Perhaps she'll have a change of mind after one night with her new cellmate, Stephanie Brown. Cass isn't happy to see her former partner, someone who is known to the resistance as a traitor, and she lets that displeasure known with a punch. Stephanie attempts to chat with her old friend, but the former assassin is having none of it. The next day in the rec area, Cassandra is looking for a fight, approaching several former adversaries to garner an adverse reaction. Unfortunately, they all pass on the chance before Cass realizes they've been forewarned by Steph to stay away. Cass finds Spoiler in the laundry room, and the two former Batgirls come to blows. During the melee, Steph slips a device into Cass's pocket right before they are both taken out by a magistrate guard. They're both placed in solitary confinement. Minutes later, lunch is served, and Cass finds an earbud on her plate. She places it in her ear and finds Steph on the other end. She's jamming surveillance with the device she placed in Cass's pocket. Spoiler recites a passage from Book 5 of the Odyssey. Oh, and Cass realizes that she and Steph are both on the same side. Steph explains how her own mission was given to her by Nightwing after Oracle went missing, and how the person known by all as the traitor to the resistance was actually still fighting on that side. Cass in turn explains why she allowed herself to get caught. There were rumors that Batman was still alive, likely under the detention center. Little did they know that it was Bruce beneath Little did they know that it wasn't Bruce beneath the detention center, but Barbara Gordon, unconscious and connected to wires and subconsciously relaying the message that Batman was alive. The two devise a plan. The next day, they spring their plan into action with Steph convincing the inmates, both heroes and villains, to distract the guards. A prison riot is about to start. Okay. I do want to talk about the art, so let me do some screen share here. I'm gonna have to scroll for days to get to where I need. Okay. Ah, here we are. Okay. I remember when Ian Prime was on, he had spoken highly of Anike. I believe that is the correct way to pronounce her name, and that he was just excited for it. And I do like the art. It reminds me of something, but I can't put my finger on it. But I do have to laugh about a couple things, and I do have some critiques. I don't think it's in this one, but it might be. But with Cass, she's got her haircut, which I have. Move that away. I've been away from the game, right? The Batman game. So I can't say whether she has this haircut now, but just looking at it is like, oh man, that's a classic, sort of anime style haircut. And then with Steph, I think just the presentation of Steph, of course you want to make her, evil. Evil and rough looking. So you've got this asymmetrical haircut, you've got the studs that are spikes in her ear, you've got an eye patch. What's worse than that? And then later on, she's smoking, and it almost reminds me of Tara Markov, and just let's make her really seem bad. So we're gonna portray her like that. But no, overall, I do really enjoy the art. I think I have specific preferences for art, so it's not my favorite, but I think that Anike does a great job with it. Oh man, that's a haunting image, isn't it? With Babs. I love all the classics references. You should know me by now that, well enough by now, that is true, that once they started quoting it, though, you know what I wondered? The nerdy part of me really wondered what translation they were using to quote Homer's Odyssey. I love that Spoiler is the top dog in the big house. And I was thinking this is a bit of a reversal, that maybe they made Spoiler the evil one because they know how much fans, aka Donovan, hated evil Cass in the way back. So they didn't want to revisit that travesty. So they decided to go with Spoiler. And already mentioned all that, of course, with cigarettes. Let's make her as evil as possible. I thought it was really interesting, and I don't know if, oh my gosh, you know what I forgot to do? Did I give creator credits? Oh yeah, I did. Oh my gosh, I had this weird thing that I did. Oh, this reminds me, since I'm on it, I'll tell you two things about this right here. Number one, do not use, and I don't know if in print it looks different, but do not use yellow font for narration boxes. And I understand what they're trying to do, because that's the thing now, and I do enjoy it, where the color coding to the character, whoever is speaking, but this does not work well. There's got to be, maybe have the box be black, and then it would be better. The other thing is this Latin that's here. Give me a break. I roll my eyes. I mean, if a job existed where I could be a, what are those people called, an advisor, a Latin advisor, and people could just pay me whenever they need me. I'm talking Marvel, DC, films, things, video games. I would love to. I would do it justice. This right here says "and life potentially." Okay, that's, I guess, what they're wanting. But I mean, it actually could, no, Itawatare. No, that doesn't make sense. Yeah. So and life, but we Tom is the accusative, and so they should have just done and we at we ta. So it just assumes that there's something else there, and also that it's an object. So it's something is being done to the life, or see. So I think they just wanted to look nice or sound nice, and that doesn't really make sense. So there you go. Oh, okay. So back to my original point or my original thought before I got distracted by that. It takes 4 pages for, I guess I didn't really need to scroll. I could have just told you. It takes 4 pages for Cassandra to say something, which is really interesting. She only speaks when she basically at the very end of her initial interaction with Steph, and I thought that was really interesting. Now, part of it is exposition dumping and using the guard to talk, but I wondered if, to a certain extent, we're reflecting back on who Cassandra was and having her be this more silent character. So I thought that was interesting. Uh oh gosh. Yeah, so I thought of Donovan when I was reading this, and also I thought of the death of the Oracle. But during the flashback about the meeting, where did I see that? I saw something. Well, I guess if we're just talking about here that Oracle is missing, and then she and Nightwing come up with this plan, I thought, okay, so Cass is again left out of this important meeting. Only Nightwing and Steph know the truth that Steph is now a double agent, we'll call her. But you'd think that you would include Stephanie's BFF, though I'm kind of thinking pre New 52 relationship. But just assuming, if they're this close, especially I think in conversation about how betrayed Cassandra feels, and then at the end of 4, it seems like they are close, and just to leave her out of there. And so, I mean, Cass was probably really close with Babs too. Again, I've been out of the game, so please forgive me. I'm just assuming some of these things until I get back into it. But I just thought, oh man, she's left out of it again. She doesn't know things. And I think it'll be something that, well, yeah, actually, I can mention this now that it's interesting that Cassandra doesn't give Steph benefit of the doubt and trusting that there was probably something more going on. And she does own that in 4, but this one I just thought, man, you're so quick potentially to see Steph doing these sketchy things and be like, well, yeah, she's a villain, she's betrayed us, rather than there must be something else going on and digging deeper. So that I think this relationship here, or Cassandra's part in this relationship, or the Bat family, or this duo or trio, is a little bit off, I think, for me. Oracle is missing, Batman is dead, but I was wondering if really Oracle, the disappearance of Oracle, seems to be a catalyst for this dystopian society. Who is more likely to change the outcome? Which person getting them back or having them alive? And I feel like, I don't know. And part of it is right here on this page, that without Oracle, or Oracle went missing, Batman died, she lost hope. But I just wonder, of the two of them, which brings more hope? Because Batman, I think he wants to correct things, but I don't know if he ever looks for hope necessarily, or to like be a beacon of hope. I think he relies on his family and his compatriots to do that. So I just feel like Oracle seems to be, at least my thought in the presentation of this story, she seems to really be put in the center, that the loss of her, I think everything fell apart. And think about it, Oracle, even if we think about the classic Oracle pre New 52, had this tie to the community, the superhero community, and she could bring everyone together. And so without that tie, how do you communicate? How do you get things done? How do you get any information? So I feel like she probably is the most important character. And yeah, we need to go and rescue her or find her. And Batman's important too, but. Okay, y'all font, Latin, using accusative case. Okay, yeah. So the other, I guess, critique that I had, or maybe the only critique I had, was just a weird thing with Barda and what she looks. Look at Barda. I think if Gorf were here, that maybe he would talk about this too. That it's, I don't know, the proportions seem really bizarre on Barda, and she is number one. I think she needs to be way taller than she is right now, because when I see her next to Scott Free, I mean, he's a little miniature. And so here, I feel like her head should be scraping the border of that box, and that I think would even it out, because I don't know, number, I couldn't tell. I mean, when I was looking at it, I thought there's only one woman that could be, is probably Barda, but it does not look like Barda. So I just feel like that she was not drawn very well. But this was an interesting, it was an interesting story. I think, I guess I'll talk about it as a whole maybe at the end. So let's do that. Let's go to part 4. I think that's all I have to say about that particular one. Eye patch and eye and cigarettes. That's how you become evil. So if you ever see me smoking a cigarette or with an eye patch, you know that something is up. Okay, let us share the screen of this one. Number 4. I have to scroll again. Okay, here we go. Batgirls. Okay, so here we go. Future State Batman 2. No, sorry. Future State Batman number 4. Batgirls Part 2. Writer Vita Ayala. Ayala. Oh my gosh. Okay. Artist Anike. Colorist Trish Mulvihill. Underneath the Magistrate Detention Center, Cass uses an implanted key generator to get access to a secluded area of the facility, while Steph and the other inmates continue their riot. The guards get an upper hand thanks to shock cuffs, but Cass disables them from below, allowing the battle to continue. While the fight goes on, Cass makes her way to her final destination, where she doesn't find Batman as was planned, but a sedated Barbara Gordon, connected to wires. Cass frees her, and they go to make their escape, taking out more Magistrate guards while doing it. The Magistrate guards have regained control of the riot as they make their move on the primary instigator, Steph. Before they can do their worst, a loud sound startles the Batgirls. Oracle has returned to speak for the people of Gotham and the Resistance, who has arrived to provide and assist to the inmates. Back at the Resistance's base, Babs and Dick reconnect and reconnect and recollect on recent events. As they kiss, Cass and Steph have their own recollection of how things have turned out for them and their new teammates from the now closed detention center. As they watch the former inmates build a new camp, they hug as the sun rises, bringing on a new beginning. So the art here, I think, again, I'll say that I enjoyed it. I actually really, in particular, liked this page. It reminded me of some of the stuff that Babs Tarr and Cameron Stewart were doing in the Burnside Batgirl run, where, especially during like detectiving scenes, where you'd have kind of ghosts of what Babs was envisioning happening, or things in the background, and or you would see movement of a suspect or something like that. So simpler than that, but I liked the blueprints and seeing that. I always think those kind of things are fun. Some of my favorite actually scenes from different comics are, and I feel like this happened a lot in Hawkeye, and I feel like maybe She-Hulk, but where you were seeing someone maybe go through an apartment complex and they were talking as they were going along. I really enjoy those. So I thought that it might have been significant. Well, what is the significance of Cass finding Barbara? That Cassandra is the one to find Barbara. I don't like it. I did not like it. I suppose, given the plot, it had to be, because Cass isn't going to go in there and get everyone who are basically villains and heroes together to fight this riot. Cass doesn't have that, what would you say, currency, I think, in the prison, but Steph does, because she's been there. So she has to be there. But Cass, I don't know. It seems like she was so disconnected, even though she was aware that Batman is gone and Oracle is gone. Steph is the one who took on that mission to find them, to find Oracle specifically. So I almost really would have liked Stephanie to be the one to find Oracle. And again, because I've been out of the game, I might say that a lot. I don't know what their relationship is like. I think if I'm thinking about what I've been reading now, 2001, absolutely. I mean, this is great. Tears in her eyes, emotional reunion. But now I wonder if it is as does that make as much sense? Do they have as close a relationship? But it's beautiful nonetheless. Look at this. Cass, man, she's been lifting the weights, carrying Babs out. Doesn't look like she's struggling at all. I feel like there might be some struggle. But I don't know. I guess if I were in Cass's place, I don't think I'd be able to do it, even though I would like to. But I think I probably would do the piggyback instead of that. And yeah, because I just don't think I'd be able to do it. Okay. Yeah, interesting costume technology where she has on this. I don't get how that happened because oh, that's right. That's right. She had that little bead ball thing. So it kind of reminds me of Flash in a way that the costume is in there, I guess. I don't know. She throws it, and all of a sudden the guard costume or outfit turns into her own. So that was interesting. I do wonder why Oracle. I mean, I didn't get a sense of the answer of why she was hooked up to that machine. Maybe something that I miss because I haven't read beyond this story. Was it for the info that she has in her brain? Is it the chip? It does make sense, and she said she was able to fight back through the connection a little bit. That's how she was able to send off those messages, but just wanted a bit more detail on that. And I don't know that they knew she was Oracle. I don't know. I could be wrong. I may have missed something. But if they knew she was Oracle, golly, they should have protected her way more, just given the fact that she knows so much. I wonder if they did know she was Oracle, then maybe they hooked up my brain to their system. They didn't realize the connection went both ways, just enough to send messages. I don't know. Did they know? I don't know. Her significance, I don't know that they did, because they could have taken down so many. Well, anyways, I guess lots of questions I'm not going to be able to answer. Nightwing. Yeah, Nightwing's a bit too single-minded, which I am shocked about. Trying to see where this was. Oh, yeah. So Stephanie is asking Cass for help, and Nightwing is telling Cass basically that Spoiler knew the risks. Cass needs to get Oracle out of there, and well, both Cass and Babs are not having any of that. They're not leaving anyone behind, but I don't know. He's just ready to disavow and abandon Spoiler and seems so governmental in that way. I think even Batman wouldn't do that, wouldn't sacrifice a player in the game, one of his people. And perhaps it speaks to his continual emotional connection with Barbara that he just really wants her out of there. But it shows poorly on him, I think, that particular scene. So we do find out that, as I was saying, that Barbara is in fact the master strategist. She is the important person behind it all, that really the reason why the resistance, I think, could end the war. So I think that answers my question before of, yeah, her missing is the catalyst, and she's the one most likely, if you were to choose between Batman or Barbara, she would be the one that you needed to choose if you were put in a Two-Face slash, what was her name? Oh no, Maggie Gyllenhaal's character, Rachel, or Rachel Dawes situation. You want to pick Rachel in that sense. All of a sudden, they start calling Cass orphan, which I didn't really understand that. Oh yeah, see? Okay, so if you're on the page, sorry, I flipped as I'm flipping, thoughts come up to me, or as I'm speaking and I flip, things come up. So this guy doesn't even know. He says, "Who is that?" So they don't even know the asset that they have. So again, I'm just wondering, why did you take Barbara, and what was the purpose of that? I don't know. Her speech to the people reminds me of speeches that, well, actually, the speech that Wonder Woman makes in 1984, and some of the speeches that Supergirl has made on the TV show. Okay, then at the very end, we've got some. Oh, yeah, see? Oh, there it was. Look at this. So, Nightwing, Man Bat, Orphan all of a sudden, even though the story is called Batgirls, and I think she was mentioned as Batgirl. Batwoman, look, oh, Kate, I can't believe you still exist. Talia al Ghul, and Robin. It looks like the Tim Robin. And then there's the fight there. So, a bit interesting. I'm not sure. There's some confusion with identities, I feel like, which needs to be cleared up. I feel like it should have been cleared up already. If this is in the future, man, you should have just made it Batgirls, and then you would have given readers hope that, oh, look, in the future there are Batgirls. But they didn't do it. Okay, so here's the shipping moment, which is lovely. And he's got some guilt. He's got some guilt. Oh, this is, man, I was reading about something similar to this in White Fragility. Basically, like making it your own, and then he has to be comforted. There's a problem with that. So I just wanted to put that out there. But it's a nice little shipper moment. And you know what? I'm never letting you out of my sight again. Sounds like a romance novel that I would have read. And then this right here, them coming together. If you're not watching, when Cass and Steph are talking, she says, "Oh, where was I? I'm so sorry for not trusting you. Of all of us, you have always had the most faith in the cause." So she does own up on that. I wish her actions would have spoken louder, however. And then at the very end, I mean, they're having this I almost said romantic moment. This moment, I feel like I don't think I was alone either. I think some people thought, and I wondered before they just ended up like this, whether there was some sort of romantic tension going on. And I don't know what was like feeling it like, oh, are we ready? Or is this happening? Is this doing it? I don't know if it had happened, what I would have felt between those two, because on two sides here, why not? They're good friends. Why not have it in I was going to say devolve. That is the incorrect word. Why not have it evolve into a romantic relationship? But on the other side, I think that's one of the problems with shipping, is just because you have two women that are friends doesn't mean that there's romantic tension between them. Though the Lena Luthor and Supergirl, I have to tell you that I mean I get a sense all the time of romance between those two. But yeah, so you don't want to always say that, oh, they're close. Of course, they're probably together. So I'm okay with it being platonic and loving in that way rather than romantic. But I think people thought that something was about to happen. So there you go. And yeah, so did you do Bab's writing? I think certainly has yeah. So her writing Babs, I think, was great. I think she certainly has more compassion. If you think about just the prisoners, trying to think of what this is. She has more compassion, uh, and it also just feels like Babs. And then if you just look at the speech, the people, I said prisoners and the Dick speech, but I'm not sure what I meant by that, so I can't explain. But I feel like she was written really well, and I think she lives up to this crucial piece of the resistance and being the heart of it and the hope of it. So I think it's well done. And overall, I think the story was interesting. Starting off with Cass and Steph being on opposite sides, and then learning there's something more, and then, oh man, Oracle is there. We've got to save her. And then the prison riot just being I felt like a lot of fun, and seeing how Steph made her way, orange is I don't know, maybe purple is the new orange, making her way and becoming queen of the yard, and having heroes and villains on her side, and having this huge riot, and then people going through. So yeah, it was really interesting. And then of course everyone coming back together and there being hope, literally. And at one point they said something, once a Batgirl, oh, always a Batgirl. And so I wondered, is it true? Is it true, once a Batgirl, always a Batgirl? And I, not only inside the comic world, but outside too, do we as readers always associate a character that, oh, they used to be Batgirl, or do you pass over it and say, oh no, Cass, she's orphan, that's who she is. Steph is spoiler, that's her, everything, her identity. And I don't know, because also you think about Huntress, she was Batgirl, kind of, without permission. Does that mean that we always need to call on her to be Batgirl? Or even that young lady that I don't care for, Misfit, she was kind of Batgirl-esque. Hmm. I think that the Batgirl cowl represents something different than it does the Robin cowl. I think it brings something different. And so, in that sense, once you are a Batgirl, which is really special, I think you hold on to that. And you are always a Batgirl until you betray what that cowl means. So maybe I'll go for that. But still, it's a confusing message just because we don't really call them Batgirl, even though the subtitle is Batgirls. Yeah, interesting. I think, man, you could, if I wrote comics, I'd have such a good story to tell with a Batgirl story. I think that's what I would investigate first, is just what does it mean to be Batgirl, and having these three different women, and how they're relating to each other, and what they bring to the table, to the cowl. But no one's asking me. So, okay. There you go. I think that's it. I felt like it was a bit scattered. When I get ready to record, I think to myself, am I ready? And I like to think that I am, but then sometimes I forget things, and that was a bit scattered. So I apologize about that. But that is the story. I have mixed feelings about it. I think it does bring up some good questions about the importance of these different characters. And also, I think that it does some things with characters that seem a bit off, but the one character I think that stays true is definitely Barbara. I think she's certainly highlighted, even though she's barely in the story, which is interesting. So I'm going to give this 7.5 out of 10 prison riots. And that is it for my comic coverage of this episode. So we're wrapping up with anime watch list. So I did mention Lupin. Since that's in my joy category, I'm not going to mention it here, but I did watch 2 series. One is Himoto Umaru-chan, or My Two-Faced Little Sister. 2015, 12 episodes, plus some specials. People are not always who they appear to be, as is the case with Umaru Doma, the perfect high school girl. That is, until she gets home. Once the front door closes, the real fun begins. When she dons her hamster hoodie, she transforms from a refined, overachieving student into a lazy junk food eating otaku, leaving all the housework to her responsible older brother, Taihei. Whether she's hanging out with her friends Nana Abina and Kire Motoba, or competing with her self-proclaimed rival, Sylphenford Takibana, Umaru knows how to kick back and have some fun. It's a cute story that follows the daily adventures of Umaru and Taihei as they take care of and put up with each other the best that they can, as well as the unbreakable bonds between friends and siblings. So the youngest child of the Sawyers asked if I wanted to watch an anime. I think we were biding time until, must have been a pancake breakfast. I don't remember what was that. Oh, I was doing my laundry over there. So I thought, yeah, let's do it. And Ellie, who does not like this kind of stuff, even, when I tried to indoctrinate people, she seemed like she was engaged in watching because she had her phone as if she were ready to text, but she was just so enraptured by what was going on. I mean, you can just watch the first few moments of the show and you'll get a sense of what it was. But Molly showed me this, and then she showed me an episode of, it's like High School of the Dead or Dead High School. I can't remember what it was called now. But that one I wasn't as engaged with. The real change at the end of the first episode of that particular one, you get a sense of, oh wow, actually there are zombies and not all is as it, but this one I was really engaging with, and so I ended up watching the rest of it pretty soon after. So thanks to Molly. And then I watched Kids on the Slope, or Sakamichi no Apollo on the Slope, 12 episodes, 2012. Introverted classic pianist and top student Karu Nishimi has just arrived in Kyushu for his first year of high school. Having constantly moved from place to place since his childhood, he abandons all hope of fitting in, preparing himself for another lonely, meaningless year. That is, until he encounters the notorious delinquent Sentaru Kawabuchi. Sentaru's immeasurable love for jazz music inspires Karu to learn more about the genre, and as a result, he slowly starts to break out of his shell, making his very first friend. Karu begins playing the piano at after-school jazz sessions located in the basement of fellow student Ritsuku Mukai's family-owned record shop. As he discovers the immense joy of using his musical talents to bring enjoyment to himself and others, Karu's summer might just crescendo into one that he will remember for forever. And I feel like it took place in 65, 66. So it feels timeless, but I think there are certain aspects of it that I thought, oh, when is this actually taking place? And a character mentions Sound of the Music and that she was unable to see it when it came out. And so I feel like it is in the 60s. But it's a really good show. I think it's deep. It tackles many things, mostly, family circumstances. I did get really confused and frustrated with some male female dynamics, mainly because it seemed like um Ritsuko had feelings for Karu, and then like she was jealous of something, and then he confesses his love for her, and then she freaks out because she has feelings for someone else. I got so confused. So I was really invested in the relationships between them, but he has some anxiety, especially with people, and you see him come out of his shell, as it said, and him and Sentaru, and a bit of a sad ending. Well, hold on. I guess like towards the end it becomes sad with a certain event, but then the end was like, yeah, they're all together. So I highly recommend that. I thought it was really good. And I already did What Are You Wearing? So we are at this stage of the game where I go through a bazillion books that I've read. So one moment, let me pause the recording, get that up and come back. Okay, so I'm pretty sure the last one I mentioned from the previous episode was the Iron Fist stuff that I've been doing. So, The Song Reader by Lisa Tucker, which was one of my Rory Gilmore's reading list books. I really enjoyed that. So, this was interlibrary loan. Any of the interlibrary loans, I have no idea what I'm going to read. And so I'm always surprised, either pleasantly or not. But this was really interesting. It was about two sisters, and one of them, instead of palm reading, used song reading. So she would talk to people but use songs that they heard in their head or they were their favorites to figure out, pieces of their lives. And it gets really intense. um it is not, I mean, there's some happy moments certainly, but yeah, it's ups and downs for this particular family. And it touches upon, I think, mental illness. It's always there, but it's not really talked about for I think different reasons. It's certainly something that I might bring on required reading, but I actually highly recommend that. I gave it 5 stars, so I recommend that. I did read Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Jenica by Brom Revel, which is Jenica, if no one's going to know. She is now the 5th mutant turtle. And so just seeing what she gets up to. Sabrina Something Wicked by Kelly Thompson and Veronica Fish, isn't it? Which continues that. It's a lighter tone compared to the what is it, Roberto something Acasa, Sagero Acasa, his take on it. Yeah, so that's fun if you like Sabrina. The Splendid and the Vile, a saga of Churchill, family, and defiance during the Blitz by Eric Larson, which I recommend, and not the comic Eric Larson. I've read two others by him, if you recall: Devil in the White City, which was on Rory Gilmore's reading list, and Beast in the Garden. And so I just like the way he writes. It's historical, but it reads really well. So you're clearly reading, and it's during the Blitz. So you're clearly reading nonfiction and history, but it reads really smoothly, and I like how he does it. A Quiet Storm by Rachel Housel Hall, and again, an interlibrary loan, really focusing a great deal. The mental illness is at the center of this, and how people don't speak about it, or it's taboo, and how does it impact people, not only the person who is suffering, but other people that are with them. I think, what was it, when someone was talking to me that was reading, she said, is this a good book? And I said that I was disturbed or uncomfortable. It was really good, but I was in a tough position of really feeling bad for one of the sisters, again, two sisters, because one of them almost in a, what was that book called by Jodi Picoult? Shoot, I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But just that one had to be counted on at all times to protect the other one, even though the other one was older. But just this burden, this onus, and what does that look like? And unfortunately, our empathy, of course, tends towards the person who is suffering, but you kind of wonder about the person that is always meant to be helping out. So it was a Black story written by a Black author, and I don't work for this place anymore, but at my school, someone in a high position, a high authority, the highest authority, that's all I'll say, who happens to be a Black man, said in private as well as public conversations that Black people do not suffer from mental illness. And he said in these public conversations, it had gotten around to students. And when I found out about this, I became ill. I mean, I jokingly say, like, it makes me sick to my stomach. I did become sick to my stomach that someone who has that power and influence would say such a damaging and false thing, and that students could hear about that. Mental illness does not discriminate based on race. It can happen to everyone. And so that right there, when I was reading this book, all I could think about was, man, I should give this book to this man so that he can read it. But I won't do that because that's passive aggressive. But I do recommend it. And there was a great ending point. Oh, actually, I have that in text because I took a picture of that, and that last page, or the wasn't the acknowledgments, I don't think, but it was near the end by the author. Let's see if I can find it. I sent it to two of my former colleagues. Note from the author, yep. All families have secrets. Unfortunately, mental illness is one of those secrets. Too often, we prefer not to think of it as a problem. Instead, we laugh at it when it manifests itself in that strange uncle you avoid during Thanksgiving, or we think we can pray it away without seeing a professional about it. I wrote A Quiet Storm out of my frustration with families who refuse to deal with this silent killer, and with the sanctimonious who simply label it as sin. Manic depression is a disease that crosses gender, racial, and class lines. Are you listening to this? It does not develop from a person's lack of willpower, his or her economic status, or bad circumstances. We can choose to ignore mental illness, to belittle it, or to be ashamed, but we should know it will destroy. You only need to consider the number of people who are imprisoned, homeless, and institutionalized because of this illness to know that this is true. As a Christian, I believe that God heals, but I also believe that he works through psychologists and psychiatrists, just as he works through neurosurgeons, obstetricians, and allergists. How can we expect God to heal us when we are too ashamed to even admit that we're sick? Can't we meet him halfway? A Quiet Storm shows what happens when a family won't. So disturbing. Yeah, it was an unsettling story, but perhaps more unsettling is an ignorant statement like Black people don't have mental illness. Moving on, Leave the World Behind by Ruman Alam. And I think this is people, I don't know, it's really popular right now. It's rather bizarre because for 30 pages, I'm following a family on vacation. I thought, is this it? And then a couple shows up and it sort of changes. It was okay. He seemed pretentious because he's using these like $5 Scrabble words that ale or atle, something like that, which is a particular position to the wind. He uses that. And so I'm having to look up these words that I've never seen before. So it was unnecessary. Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I really liked it. I don't recommend the Audible version. I do not recommend the Audible version. She was not a good narrator in my opinion. She was good for the pronunciations of the Spanish words and places and people, but no life in her. She was not the character. But this is great. There's some gaslighting. It's like Jane Eyre mixed with Rebecca and an actual, Hispanic or Mexican story, which is great because I feel like we don't have many of those. So I'm glad. I need to seek out more. I think I've been really focused on Black stories and Black authors, and I need to look more for Mexican and Hispanic and things like that to continue to broaden my horizons. So I recommend that. Untamed by Glennon Doyle, which was great, and really I think just if I could summarize it, just like becoming, I don't know, stop trying to please other people and really owning yourself and owning your womanhood. And there are some things that I struggled with. I think it convicted me to some things, but even in those convictions, it also made me really conflicted. Like, how do I do this? And she says, if you choose to either, man, how was it? Please other people but have yourself sort of caged in, or if you free yourself but you're going to hurt people, you need to free yourself. And so I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can kind of see what you're saying, but at the same time, ooh, I don't know about that. So Night by Eli Wiesel, which was the second time that I read it. Again, number one, I think everyone should be reading it. I think you should be reading it to your kids at a certain extent. If it's not in school, it just needs to be read, period. And this will be the April episode of Required Reading, to read that. And I just finished today White Fragility, Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism by Robin DiAngelo. And I highly recommend that as well. I think she's getting flack as well as, I think Ibram, I like Ibram X. Kendi, about being too harsh on people, and that if we're trying to pull the conservatives over, the less progressive people, even though progressive is a bit of a dangerous word, at least in White Fragility, um, then they need to be gentler. But it almost is ironic that you're saying you need to be gentler, because you're proving the point of the title is that you can't be given the facts because you can't emotionally handle it. So personally, I would love to be told, like, this is where a lot of this stuff, I was like, yep, yep, yep. And thinking, oh man, yeah, I totally do that. But wanting serious conversations of, hey, Stella, you did this, this was problematic. And then owning that again, owning it, and yeah. So I feel like I really love having that relationship with Donovan where we can talk about it. And then I think, now with Shy as well, it has been great to talk with her on a different level because Shy is a woman. So it's been great, and I hope that people, whether it's public or private, public is fine if it's a learning experience, to be like, hey, this was problematic what you had said. So I appreciate learning from that. So I recommend it, frankly. If you need your hand held, then I guess you need to look at another book that is a bit more gentle. So there you go. White Fragility. Okay, I read all that stuff. Oh, people, before I go, today I got news that my final interlibrary loan came in, aka my final Rory Gilmore's reading list book came in. So 10 and a half years. The journey will culminate in some Don Powell novels from 1930 and 1942. It is 5 novels in one, so it might take me a bit, but it's about my journey is going to end. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. I picked it up. So $3 spent again. Okay, well, this is the episode. It's done. Remember, you can send any questions or comments to batgirl.oracle@gmail.com. I think the thing I'm reaching out for you about is, would you like to do you think that'd be worthwhile to have an episode on colorism in comics and sexual assault and rape in that presentation? And then, of course, my question about that as well, rape and sexual assault in media. You can also find the show on Google Play and Stitcher, like the show on Facebook, or follow it on Twitter at Batgirl Oracle, and subscribe to the show on YouTube for an uncut version. Follow the Batman Universe on Facebook and Twitter as well. Support the Batman Universe by subscribing to Patreon. Once again, thanks to Mile High Comics for sponsoring Batgirl Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast. Next time, we've got some Batman modern, we've got some Nightwing modern, and some random vintage stuff that I have yet to schedule out what that is. So just be prepared for that. But until then, be safe, love one another, show empathy, compassion towards others. Please wear your mask, even if you're vaccinated. And yeah, fly on, Babs lovers.